Hi, everybody. I'm Jason Schneider, founder of the Perception Academy, and I'm really excited to be here today with Rigo Ramirez. So welcome, Rigo.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Rigo is one of my clients. We've been working together for at least a couple of months now, and he's a spiritual teacher of an ancient Congo tradition from a town called Loiza in Puerto Rico. He's currently based in Indiana, and he's a member of my INSIDERS mentoring group. And I believe you came to NLP to supplement kind of the spiritual work that you're already doing within your community. Is that right?
Absolutely correct.
Cool. And so, what I was hoping to do is to ask you a couple questions today, and maybe you can share some of the things that you've learned along your journey with me that maybe the people who are watching this can maybe get some value and some insight into what goes on, maybe inside of the insiders or what goes inside of Rigo's experience. So
Awesome.
I guess with that being said, I'm wondering, in the time that we've worked together, what would you say would be some of the benefits or the values that you've gotten from the insiders community or just from our relationship?
Some of the benefits, man, it's so many, but I think the biggest one, the biggest benefit that I've gotten is just a lot of the I've strengthened a lot of my interpersonal skills, like my ability to connect with others. I've always been naturally like a very direct, to the point type person. And some of the things that I've learned inside the insiders group, like for example rapport. I've always known about rapport, but just like the detail on how to do it has helped me definitely look at some of the things that I've been doing wrong. It also helped me understand what has worked for me in the past, and also is giving me ideas to where I can improve in the process, which I have tremendously. A lot of people
Awesome.
haven't even noticed a big difference.
So maybe I mean, if you don't mind, I'd be curious. What was maybe an example of one thing that you were doing wrong with rapport, maybe that you could share? I'm sure there's other people doing the same thing.
So yeah, so for example, when I would start a let's say I would start a new conversation with somebody. When I would, let's say I'm in a position where I'm going to advise them, you know it was like a person comes to me, they have a problem, and like in 2 minutes I'm already like ready to dive into a situation. And what is the problem? So like I can be very authoritative in my approach, very drill officer. So I think the military would have been a better approach for me.
Funny.
But being that you're dealing with people and their emotions and their problems, I can attack everything like a drill officer, like a warrior.
Okay.
So so it will help me to first, like step back, establish a connection with them, and then also, oh, but one of the biggies too was how to establish that safety so that people can really open up to me. Because one of the
Hmm.
things that how it's really affected my work is that when I'm with a client, and because I'm establishing rapport and establishing safety with them, it's like they tend to tell me more of the details of what's going on with them without feeling judged. And that within itself has been very significant in being able to help them with their problems.
So that's actually pretty interesting because first of all, just I think the general energy of you seems to be kind of soft and compassionate would be my guess. But definitely, the interesting thing is most coaches tend to be more, let's say, more soft and compassionate, and maybe not getting drill sergeant into the, to get to action, get to work, and it might tend to fall into a fluffy conversation. And so it's interesting if someone's down here where they're kind of drill sergeancy, we're going to want to slow down and build the rapport skills. But if someone's more kind of soft and going with the flow, then we might need to pull them down here to become more directive, more to the point, and more kind of like you said, drill sergeanty.
Jason, there was something that you mentioned in the class that was very interesting, that I had to also differentiate within myself too. Is that you have mentioned something that some people need therapy and some people need coaching, and
Hmm.
and I realized that if somebody comes to me, see, as a spiritual teacher, like in my community, people don't trust, like in indigenous communities, a lot of people don't trust like the psychologist or the Western doctor. They come to me to say, hey, they want to come to speak to the ancestors, or they come to speak to me on a spiritual level. And a lot of times they'll have situations that require therapy, which I'm not equipped to be able to do. But they won't trust, like, let's say, a therapist per se, right? So, but one of the things that really helped me in my work, and also what things that I've learned, is that I've been able to specify what kind of help I can really help somebody. And I'm able to help somebody who doesn't require therapy, somebody that really needs, like, somebody who's already healthy emotionally. Because I always use the analogy of weightlifting. I tell them, the conversation I have to have with you is kind of like lifting weights. Okay, I'm gonna have to put some pressure on you. You're gonna have to, feel some pain. But if your arm is broken, then you gotta go see a doctor. You can't. I can't help you grow. So, so these classes have helped me really specify my language and be more specific with my work.
I love that metaphor of the kind of, we're going to kind of push you to lift some weight, but if your arm's broken, you're going to need to get some healing. And so that was something that you developed, more recently. Is that what you're saying? That you got more clear?
Right. And inside the insiders group, because like I said, it's one of those things that, like, so many of the techniques that you go over, it lets me see what I can improve on, and what I'm doing right, and what else, like, what else would I have to work on myself. So one of the things that, when it came down to building rapport, I was like, I really need to specify myself. What kind of help can I really help people with? And that's one of the things that I discovered within myself in this process.
Awesome. And I'm just curious. So I know that you've gained some skills that you apply in your professional development. What about maybe applying some of the tools to yourself or in your relationships? Have you had any experiences with that?
Oh man. Oh man. The biggest one was, I think, not it's not just valuable in my professional life, also my personal life, is the ability to give and receive feedback.
Mm.
And that transferred into my relationship and my parenting.
And how? So tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm a huge proponent of feedback, and I think that's one of the things that's lacking from a lot of training programs, specifically in the fields of coaching and NLP. One of the ways that I always say the breakfast of champions is feedback, and I'm a huge, I guess I always want the feedback, and so I'm wondering how has that? Yeah, explain a little bit about how have you applied that in your own life with your personal relationships?
So one of them was the see, when you share the feedback forms, um the how you ask those questions gave me a lot of insight. The way you frame the question. So I just think that there's just a better way to ask for feedback. And also the way, because I also, like, I pay attention to how, like, look, I'm here to learn. So my intention is, like, I'm a big believer that if I'm going to learn from somebody, I ask myself, do I want to be like that person, right? So that's why I always tell you, like, Jason, you do such a good job training. So so when I'm telling you, like when I say that, I really mean it, because that's when I say myself, I want to be like him. So I see how you genuinely, like, when we're giving you feedback, we see that you're genuinely open about it. There's
Right.
people that, like, yeah, give me some feedback, but then they're kind of like they're like, they're flinching to say they're gonna get hit. But no, when like, you ask for feedback, you standing, you're like, come on, give it to me, come on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think one of the, I mean, that's some of the stuff that we learn and we practice, and also like in the practice groups where I'm a very big proponent of learning how to give good feedback, but also learning how to receive feedback well. And so when we do the practice groups, I have you guys practice giving feedback and receiving feedback. I think one of the most valuable frames of mind that protect that is that the feedback is not about me, and I think that's like one of the useful frames. The feedback is never about me. It's never about you. It's never about the person. The feedback is only about your behavior, not about you, but your behavior. And even with that, the feedback is only about like one past performance that's already over with, that like it was just that little performance. So if I think about, well, it's not about me, it's about something that I did that this person saw at some time in the past. It kind of helps to separate it from me. And also, I believe that feedback is the most kind of accelerated fuel that we can have for personal growth. That getting these, one of the courses we did was the perceptual positions course, where we look at things from different people's perspectives. And I think that feedback is a really good way to get lots of other people's perspectives to become more rich and to learn. So. I'm glad that you that's your experience, and it's really an honor to hear you say that you admire how I train and how I work. Actually, there was a story. I don't remember what it was. If maybe you remember, but I think you posted in the group one time that you asked the feedback to, like, was it your partner, or you asked the feedback questions to a family member? Do you remember that? What was that?
Yeah, no. It was a meta questions.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a meta question. So, so I have this aunt. Okay. I have this one aunt and uncle.
Sounds like this is gonna be a great story. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the thing is that because of the tradition that I practice, my mother was a practitioner, but my other family members, they're mostly Christian, and they viewed very negatively, what we practice. So what happens is that I had this aunt that she was kind of like, she's very sweet. She's a great person. I always wanted to get real, out of all my aunts and uncles, I always wanted to get real close to her. And that's when I really used the meta questions for the first time. Was that, I sat down, I had a conversation with her, and then I started, naturally using the meta questions. But what was different is that when I would talk to her before, I would use like different type of questions, but this time I would repeat. I would repeat back to her, oh, okay, so like, what do you mean specifically, right? Or like, if that's true, then why this? So I would go over the levels until she like, she genuinely opened up to me and said, hey, it's like, look, what you do scares me, and these things, like, they're against the tradition. So I was able to have an open dialogue that it brought us closer together.
That's powerful. And I think, I mean, to me, when I hear that story, first thing I think about is that even to be able to have the space to ask those kinds of questions with someone who's maybe has a differing belief or frame of mind than you, it takes a lot of rapport, because you need to be able to hold the space and come in genuinely curious, not trying to trap them or to get them. So yeah, I mean, being able to hold the space for someone, and then those meta questions allow us to get to the heart of what's real for somebody. And so when we go deep and up the levels and you hold that space, it can really have profound and deep and real conversations, not kind of just the surface conversations I think that we're used to. It's a pretty pretty cool story. That wasn't the story. I think there was a story though. Was it not you who had the story with the feedback questions? You asked like your partner about,
no,
can you give me feedback in our relationship or something like that?
No, that was with my daughter.
Yeah.
Daughter, yeah.
Give me a quick reminder of that story.
Yeah, so I tell my daughter, we're having, just a general conversation, and I start asking her. So I'm like, yeah, because her name is yeah. I'm like, yeah. What do you think is something that your papa can do better? Okay. And she was like, she really didn't know how to answer that. But then, I just, kept, I noticed that she was kind of hesitant, like, oh my God, like, because that's the first time I asked her something like that. And but you know, I made it safe for her. We kept talking, and I find out that, look, I come from a very rigid, you know, like Puerto Rican mama. Okay, like you don't play with mama. So, you know, we grew up. She was very authoritative. Okay, and I could say that there's certain aspects of her that, of course, naturally I have in me. So in my parenting style, you know, I can be very authoritative. So when I was telling my daughter, like, how do you feel about certain things about me? Like, how do you think I'm doing as a dad? And one thing that she mentions to me, she says, like, well, you know, there is this way of how you say no. You know, sometimes the way how you say no to me, like, is you say it in such a way that she feels rejected. So then that made me reflect a little bit, where, okay, you know, because sometimes my way of saying no may be very authoritative. And I said, okay, so I reflected back on that, and I started to reframe my way and become more conscious of how I said that, because I told her, like, there's gonna be times where you're not gonna like when I tell you no, because you're not getting the thing that you want. But I'm going to make sure that when I do tell you no, that I say it in a way that you don't feel rejected. So it
Mhm.
was more in my tone, you know, than anything.
So, I mean, for me, that was like, as a trainer, just as a person, hearing that story was so profound, because I am, like we were saying earlier, I'm a huge fan of requesting feedback and being open for feedback, and then taking the
Mm-hmm.
feedback in and then implementing the feedback as quickly as possible. And honestly, you know, I do that with my trainings and with my coaching sessions and with my you know, my programs and everything. And I never had really thought to, you know, how often do we ask feedback to our children, our
Mm-hmm.
partners, our business partners, our loved ones, our family members. And so that was just a really powerful and profound story about how, you know, just being open to feedback, and then using the skills of holding the safe space, and then and the skills of reframing and saying, well, look, if I do say no, it's not, you know, this, it's just that I'm trying to, you know, do this other thing. So
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, really awesome stuff. And honestly, I could talk with you forever about this kind of stuff, but we got to kind of start to wrap up now. I guess
Sure.
as we could bring this conversation to a close, I'm wondering, is there anything else that you'd like to share with anybody who's watching this, maybe that would help them to better understand, or anything you'd like to leave them with? Any final words regarding NLP, neurosemantics, insiders, or
You know, I've been doing courses for many years. I'm always, every year I'm constantly investing into myself, and I have to say, this is one of the best trainings that I have taken, hands down. You know, and I think that the amount of value that you give us for the conversation is, man, is like 10 times way over the value that we're getting. So all I have to say is that, I mean, anybody watching this, and if they're gonna watch this to think about to join this, like, you better get it now. Take advantage of this opportunity, because, I mean, the amount of value that you give us, man. That's why I'm super grateful for the training that you give us, because, I mean, this I've look I've attended all kinds of like super expensive stuff, and they don't teach this high quality things that you're teaching now, Jason. So that's all I'm gonna say. Maybe I might ruin it for the person in the future. Maybe Jason will be like,
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna have
gotta
to raise the price.
raise my risk here.
So
All right, I like
so I
that.
might ruin it
Good
for the future
feedback.
people, but you know,
No,
you definitely, for the value and how amazing this course is, man. You better get in quick.
I love it. No, yeah. First of all, it means a lot. Second of all, I really appreciate that. And I'll just say, I genuinely, if I do raise the prices in the future, which I may, and you know, things change. But my goal is always to provide at least 10 times the value that I receive for each individual person. And so it will still be 10 times plus as valuable, no matter what the
Amazing.
rates are. But
Mhm.
I really appreciate you today coming out here and sharing this for everybody watching. I hope that you could pull out maybe one or two or more nuggets that you can provide with you and your life. If you're interested in learning more about Rigo, I can put some links around here potentially for his social media stuff. And dude, I'll see you in the group. Thank you so much. I really, really, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you.